Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and the man seated next to me prefers film strips to movies, and his name is Mike Roth.
Well, I do. Once you put it in the machine, you lose the purity of it.
Yeah.
It's really supposed to be looked at on the film. So I just...
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just like that. It's so relaxing. It really is. Hours and hours.
Picture you just, oh yeah, this is a good one, I can tell.
Oh.
So this week we have my favorite episode of the year.
Yes.
We got a couple movies to talk about on the marquee, but more importantly, we get to look back and talk about our favorite movies of the last year. We reviewed a lot of movies in the last year.
You like this better than Halloween? We get to dress up.
I do. I love this episode. We get to finally talk about the movies that we loved from the previous year. So I'm really excited for that. But first, let's get into what we have on the marquee. And the first one I have for us is, I guess it's the last movie of 2017.
Yeah.
Deep into January, we're finally getting it. But it's Oscar nominated, so it's a 2017 movie. It is the newest film from Paul Thomas Anderson. It is Phantom Thread, starring Daniel Day-Lewis. Supposedly Daniel Day-Lewis's final film, he says.
Just like the last three.
Never to act again. He plays a man named Reynolds Woodcock. Reynolds is this fashion designer, kind of a high-end dressmaker. And this is set, I think, in the 1950s. They never really give you a real good feel of exactly when this is. I'm guessing 1950s. Reynolds is really difficult to deal with. He kind of is very demanding about how he wants things. Little things really set him off, kind of upset his genius. His joy really comes from his creations, the dresses that he makes. He has this eye for detail and really just a demand to have things the way he wants them. And everything about this man is impeccable. Everything is impeccable about Reynolds. He begins this romance with this waitress named Alma, played by Vicky Krieps. Who is just this young, shy waitress. He kind of sweeps her off her feet, brings him, and she becomes kind of his muse, his model for everything that he wants to create. And it's this weird kind of romance and relationship that they have. He also has a lady named Cyril, played by Leslie Manville. Cyril is kind of runs the business side of his dressmaking operation. She's kind of a mother figure. She's kind of his protector from the outside world. Mm-hmm. And so it's this weird relationship where he and Alma, they kind of love each other, but he also kind of wants to keep her at arm's length. Cyril doesn't appreciate Alma kind of coming into this relationship that she has with him, and suddenly he's distracted. And he and Alma are kind of, throughout this whole thing, kind of dancing with what they are as a relationship. She still has this inferiority complex. She's kind of struggling to find her strength because this man is obviously much more powerful than her, find a purpose. And it's this really weird, I mean, it's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, so it's very deliberate, and there are weird things introduced, and little things are introduced, and like little embers just kind of left burning around the film that start to come together. It's a beautiful movie. Paul Thomas Anderson shot the movie himself. Mm-hmm. He became his own director of photography for this. And so it's meticulous in its shots. And the score is beautiful. Like, as they're falling in love and things are going well, it's this beautiful operatic score. And then as things start to sour, as like seeds of unrest start to flourish, the soundtrack becomes like just hard to listen to, like harsh noises, really weird, and so it just kind of in your belly you start to feel this like discord. And I don't want to talk about like a lot of what goes on in the especially the final act, because it gets really weird. But it's just it's beautiful. Great performances. I mean, this is one of my favorite Daniel Day-Lewis performances. He's just great.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I watch the trailers while everybody else is watching the trailers, and every time I see him, he's like a chameleon. I mean, he's the same guy. He doesn't have prosthetics on or anything like that, but he looks completely different in all his roles.
Yeah, and this is the first movie he's done in 20 years where he uses his actual accent, his actual voice.
Oh.
Of course, in full Daniel Day-Lewis style, he went and studied to become a dressmaker. Got to be full method. He's,
I'm assuming that's the reason why every time he does one of these roles, he says this is his last one, because it takes a lot of toll.
I mean, he spends years getting ready for the role.
Yeah, he doesn't just act. He has to totally immerse himself in that persona before he could go out and actually do
there's so much about this movie that I just love. Like I say, it gets a little weird in parts, but it was one of those movies that it kept me thinking for a day or two afterwards. Like, man, I don't know how that works out. And my mind started, and you're like, oh, okay. And I actually like it more 2 days afterwards than I did walking out of the theater, because little things start to sort themselves out. I loved it. I think it's a tremendous performance. I think it's a tremendous overall. I think all three leads were really great in this movie.
Definitely worth its nomination.
It definitely deserves all the nominations that it's received for everyone. I loved it. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think it's a tremendous movie. I don't know. I think it's a really interesting Paul Thomas Anderson movie. So I highly recommend Phantom Thread. Finally coming to theaters near you.
All right, I'm going to have to see that.
On the other side, what do we have?
We have 12 Strong, directed by Nikolai
Fuglis.
Sure. This is only his second movie, but I think he did a fairly good job. It looks pretty polished. It's about 12 soldiers. This is right after 9/11, and of course everybody is scrambling to do something about this. A soldier that was promoted to a desk job. Chris Helmsworth plays Captain Mitch Nelson. He used to lead this team, but he is so moved by what happened. He needs to get out there and do something. He gets allowed to kind of get a grab of his men again and go over to Afghanistan to be pretty much the first soldiers on the field. 12 people. They have an interesting group of actors for this one. They used a lot of comedic actors, which I thought was pretty interesting, because this is usually the kind of movie where it's super, you got to get hard about it, you got to be super patriotic, and it's all seriousness. But I think the mixture of the comical acting,
Michael Pena especially.
Yeah, Michael Pena, great. And you got Rob Riggle, and
Rob Riggle was a Marine who served under the guy he played. And he actually served under him in this war.
And I'm just amazed by that, because you look at him and you're like, oh, that guy's a funny little teddy bear. Yeah. But no. But,
he's got, as they say in this movie, he's got the eyes of a killer.
but everything about this mission was actually really top secret for a long time.
Right. I mean, this is the true story.
Yeah, this is a true story of 12 people, and it's really bare bones. You had a couple of weeks to get this mission done. And throughout this whole movie, Chris Helmsworth is saying things like, yep, we're going to do this to win the war. We got to get this war done.
Winning is the only way out.
We got to do this to win the war. Unfortunately, every time he said that, it made me kind of go, well, that's... so I just assumed I knew the ending, but I didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, and like you see in the movie, and the subtitle is the horse soldiers.
Yeah.
Because they went over to, these 12 guys went to Afghanistan, and their basic job was to hook up with the Afghan resistance, and they lead them to the Taliban, and then we drop the bombs on them.
Yep.
There's the plan. The only way to do it is you got to ride our horses, and it turns into a battle on horses versus tanks and various
which was really cool and well done. All the little battles in this really felt like you were watching it. It wasn't a shaky cam, blurred mess. You could tell what's going on. They were unique. I loved how they would storm down the hill on these horses with guns in their hands, going through like major battles. And you're like, wow, this is like a big mix of this really primitive technology of horse riding. And then you got these huge guns that's just rat-a-tatting while you're fighting tanks and stuff, which I know it sounds way over the top, but the way they did it, it really works. A lot of the military movies, I get kind of lost in all the military jargon. This one, they kind of dumbed it down for guys like me.
You should have been in the theater with me. There was a guy sitting next to me that was explaining to everybody everything about this movie.
Well, I'm glad it didn't get too... Yeah. I mean, if I saw a movie about surgeons, I really don't want to go through the whole list.
But what I appreciated about the movie is that it got into the politics of the region and the history of the fighting in the region and why it's so difficult and why this is unsurmountable odds. Yeah. But it didn't linger on that.
No.
And like the best of these movies, I think the best of these types of films spend time developing camaraderie amongst the guys. Yeah. So you care.
Yeah.
And I think they did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah.
Of developing the camaraderie between these 12 guys who are going into unsurmountable odds. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, you got Michael Shannon, who's one of my favorite actors in the world. You know, and they're talking about you need someone who has the eyes of a killer. I mean, that's on his resume. I've got psycho eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it. This was better than I expected it to be.
I really enjoyed this movie, too. I was not expecting this movie to be as enjoyable, but it was fun and educational and interesting. It really was pretty cool.
What did you end up giving 12 strong?
I gave it a 3.5. I think it's solid. I did feel a little disappointed every time they repeated that this war was going to be lost if their mission did. I was like, oh, no.
If only you knew. I actually agree with you. I gave it 3.5 stars, which is really good.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it surprised me. It was a nice, pleasant surprise. Fun war movie. All right, let's move on to the last movie we have on the marquee this week. It is Den of Thieves from Christian Gudegast. Stars Gerard Butler as Nick O'Brien. Nick O'Brien is a cop on special unit in the L.A. Sheriff's Department. Oh, he's a bad boy, though. His team plays outside the rules.
Just the way you're describing it already, it's like, yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And it's his team's job to try and take down this bank robbing team led by Pablo Schreider, plays a man named Merriman, and his crew of guys, also led by O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ice Cube Jr., they are, and 50 Cent, of course.
Yeah.
This movie, it opens with a shootout at a donut shop where the cops are. So here we go. It kind of plays with a lot of things. If you've seen Heat, by the way, you've seen most of this movie. This movie, it's good guys who are bad guys versus bad guys who are bad guys. The team of bank robbers is going to try and rob the Federal Reserve in a daring heist that no one's ever been able to pull off. Throughout the movie, Gerard Butler's character Nick is doing everything he can to prove that he is masculine. Everything.
2.5 hours of that.
Here's my issues with this movie. First off,
good.
Gerard Butler, I don't know if you noticed this or not,
but
every single scene he was in for the first, I'm going to say, hour 20 of the movie, the first 80 minutes of the movie, he's either eating and or drinking in every single scene.
Well, just because he don't care.
Every scene he's eating or drinking, sometimes eating, drinking, and smoking, and trying to provide dialogue. I'm just going to say this, Gerard Butler's not a good enough actor to pull that off. To be shoving things into his mouth and giving dialogue.
Yeah. I think that was part of what they wanted to do with Gerard.
Oh, yeah.
He's supposed to be...
He's so laid back.
Yeah, he's a laid-back cop that just don't care. Yeah, I'm going to talk while I eat. What are you going to do about it, kind of thing.
It was distracting. I was like, every scene, I'm like, he's reaching for something.
And I actually, in a way, I thought how he portrayed this character was done well, but that's all they really wanted to do with this movie. It got repetitive and lazy.
It's every Gerard Butler movie, though. It feels like he's just like very cool with making mediocre action movies. From the London Has Fallen movies to the
with this
Geostorm.
They definitely said try to be the alpha and do nothing but. And it was to the point where there were some shots where you were just like, wow, you could have cut this out. This is 2.5 hours of Gerard Butler just trying to be masculine.
He's such a masculine guy that he goes and has sex with the bad guy's girlfriend just to show that he can.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
And that really went nowhere either
because
he was like, yeah, I did what you
Made
told
no
me
sense.
to. It's like, what?
Here's the thing. This movie, the script was straight from Heat. The first hour 20 was Heat.
Yeah.
He was the Al Pacino character. To the fact that there were even characters with the same names in this movie. Heat has a character named Bosco. Guess who's on the bad guy team? A guy named Bosco. That's a weird name to have the same. It's not like two guys named Mike.
Yeah.
It felt like it was a watered-down, very poor man's Heat with an inferior cast and an inferior crew. And, there were beat for beat in the first hour where I'm like, this is about to happen because I've seen Heat a dozen times. Yeah. And sure enough, but the thing
Didn't
was...
you have that on a loop once?
I've watched Heat. I don't know how many. It's the first DVD I ever bought.
Yep.
Was Heat. But the thing is, once they got into the heist, I actually enjoyed the heist. Once they got into that action, I enjoyed that right up until the final 10 minutes of the movie.
Same here, yeah.
And then it fell back apart again. I was like, we don't need this. This is stupid. But I liked O'Shea Jackson. I thought he was good. He's uncanny looking like his dad. It's creepy.
Yeah.
But the most of this movie I could have done without.
I enjoyed Pablo Schreiber's portrayal of his character, and Gerard Butler. For the most part, his bad cop routine was cool. It just was way too much, where you were just like, someone needs to hit him or someone needs to cut some of these scenes because it's getting repetitive.
It's like he watched Training Day and was like, I can do better than Denzel. Yeah. Watch me be a bad cop.
Yeah, I'm going to be a bad cop.
Yeah, it was a little over the top. So I ended up giving Den of Thieves 2 out of 5 stars.
I thought it was watchable, 2.5.
Yeah. I enjoyed the heist, but unfortunately, I didn't enjoy anything else.
I'll never rewatch this thing.
No!
But, yeah.
I would love to see Gerard Butler make a good movie again. It's been a long time, if ever. It's been a while.
He's got a shtick.
It's been a long time since 300, and I don't know, that wasn't really acting either. But.
No, that wasn't.
So that's what we have on the marquee for you, but let's get into the fun part. The part everyone's been waiting for. Our best films of 2017, our favorite films of 2017. And let's start with number 10 instead of number 5.
And just to explain to everybody, these aren't the Oscar winners. These are our personal favorites.
These are our personal favorites. We've seen hundreds of movies this year.
Yeah.
We got to narrow it down. It's tough. There's some tough cuts to make. I hated having to get rid of it because I think this year was a tremendous year in movies.
Yeah.
And there were 40 movies that I really loved.
Unless you're talking about animation.
Oh, yeah. That was a weak year. But let's get into it. Let's start, sir. Give me your 10 through 6.
10 through 6, Belko Experiment.
Oh, interesting.
Many times I've watched that thing. I love that movie. Star Wars, Mother, 3 Billboards. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty low on the list.
Have it where you have it.
Lady Bird. And that's where I'm going to stop right there.
All right, so there's your 10 through 6. So my 10 through 6, first off, cheating right away. Number 10, I have a tie.
Oh.
So my number 10 is a tie between Phantom Thread and The Florida Project.
Okay.
I can't split them. I won't do it.
All right.
So those are my number 10s. Number 9, Brigsby Bear, a really fun, weird, quirky comedy that I loved from this year.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. Number 8, Blade Runner 2049. My number 7 is The Hero, the new Sam Elliott film from earlier this year. And number 6 is a documentary that I was just blown away by called Icarus. It's on Netflix. Watch it. So let's get into it now, one by one. Let's get our top 5. This is the cream of the crop.
I think it was cheating when you use a tie, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's your number 5?
My number 5 is a tie. Logan and Wonder Woman. Both these movies, fantastic movies, totally different.
It's a weird looking
That is an interesting clip we got there. But anyhow, this is like what I look forward to in the comic book movies. With the Marvels, they're all great. They're fantastic. But they're starting to feel a little cookie cutter, where you had Deadpool 2 years ago, and this year Logan and Wonder Woman. I think they really broke some strides in what you can do with this type of movie, and they were fantastic. I love the darkness of Logan. I loved how they gave some depth into the character of Wonder Woman. Both of them are equals to me. I love them both, and I've watched them many times.
Yeah, I encourage that tie. That's great. I put Logan a half a notch ahead of Wonder Woman, but they're the best by far this year. Some of the best that I can remember.
Wonder Woman a little bit better,
Yeah.
but not enough to say I can't. I got to break it up. They're both nice.
That's
They're
fair.
Awesome.
So my number 5 this year, favorite film, was the new film from Christopher Nolan. It was Dunkirk. Dunkirk just blew me away. I think I saw it 3 times in the theater.
Yeah.
In various incarnations, and it got better every time. There's things I picked up more every time, and the fact that I couldn't understand half of the dialogue was just fine with me because I can't understand those accents all the time.
Actually, would be surprised if they didn't win award for their score. I mean, that was fantastic.
Yeah, I love this movie. I think it's a tremendous movie about the spirit of man against overwhelming odds. So my number 5. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Battle of the Sexes. I really love this movie. Emma Stone, I really think she should have been nominated. I also think that Stephen Carell should have been nominated. The story of the battle between Billie Jean and Bobby Riggs back in the 70s, it was a fantastic movie. I loved it. I will watch it again once it's released on Blu-ray.
All right.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's a great movie. I had a lot of fun with that. My number 4 was my favorite comedy of the year, and that was The Big Sick, Kumail Nanjiani's film about his life and falling in love.
Yeah.
And the roller coaster of emotions that came along with it. This movie, I mean, it was funny, it was sad, it was all kinds of things. There was hope, there was downturns.
It never played like it was a biopic at all. I didn't know until the very end. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a true story. This is so cool.
Yeah, love it.
And
so
you
that's my number 4.
Wow. Well, you know what?
Tell
I agree with you. Number 3.
there it is.
We'll just make it quick.
Say
That
it
was
again.
awesome. That was a great movie.
It really was.
And-
It's just an underrated comedy.
I feel bad that I didn't go out into the theater and see it. I watched it in retrospect of your review,
Yeah.
and it was fantastic. You were
Somebody's
right.
listening to the reviews
were
finally.
right.
Even if it's the guy who's sitting a foot away from me. Somebody's listening. That's all I need. All right, so my number 3 then was a movie who, midway through the year, this was my number 1 movie on the year. Loved it. I think I've rewatched it the most maybe this year, and that's Baby Driver. I think Baby Driver is awesome. Everything about it, we've talked about it in our review, the soundtrack and the action and just everything about it I really enjoyed. And the fact that there's some actors in here that I'm not big fans of. Ansel Elgort, I'm like, he's all right. I can't believe him.
There's one in particular.
There's one that I like less these days. Can't wait for Christopher Plummer to replace him. But I love this movie. I think it's got one of the great soundtracks of the year, and it's just a lot of fun.
You think they maybe like later will edit him out like Anakin Skywalker?
Yeah, just replace him.
Replace him.
Absolutely. So that's my number 3. Your number 2.
My number 2
Holy
is
cow.
Blade Runner. It was fantastic. It was a beautiful movie. It was. It's actually really hard to describe how I felt when I saw this movie for the first time. I was so worried that this thing would get totally screwed up, that they wouldn't get the feel of the first one, or even worse, have the long, lengthy kind of dullness of the first one before it got re-edited and fixed up and cleaned up. And this surpassed my expectations. It is a gorgeous film. It's a great story, great acting.
Yeah, I was really nervous for this movie. I was really excited, and that's what was making me nervous because I was so excited for this.
Yeah.
The cast, once we saw the first trailer, I think Denis Villeneuve is one of the great directors, and the first one is my favorite sci-fi movie. It's every time I get excited for a movie, I start to get worried, like, oh, this is leading to disappointment.
Yep.
And I was blown away. I walked out going, yeah, he recaptured the universe of that original movie perfectly, added his own things into it, but it felt like it was an extension of what we'd already seen.
Yeah.
And that this world had just continued on, and we showed back up into it years later and picked up a new story.
And some of the, like, recreating some of the characters and stuff, just flawless.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell that,
Yeah.
it really wasn't.
I love this movie
Yeah.
so much. Great choice. That was your number 2, correct?
That was my number 2.
Okay.
You got a number 2.
So yeah, I do. So my number 2 is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I just love this movie, man. It's a story that I love, a cast that I love. I love depressing movies. This
Yeah.
is depressing, all right.
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But it's also funny. It's
funny.
You have every
it's really
emotion
dark.
in it.
And I love, there's the moments between Woody Harrelson and Frances McDormand's character in this movie are some of my favorite moments of the entire year in movies. As they're sitting there talking and being real, and it's not just good guy, bad guy.
Yeah.
That it feels like two people who have a history together, and I love it. Sam Rockwell's great in this. And there's a reason why it's been winning all kinds of awards. Frances McDormand's been winning all the awards. Sam Rockwell just won an award.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie. I really enjoy it.
I
It
agree.
made your top 10.
Yeah, it made my top
It's
10.
not like
no,
you're
I
telling me
agree.
it's garbage.
No,
I'm good.
no, everything is a good, solid.
Now let's get into what your number 1 movie of the year is.
Now everybody should know this because I know all our viewers watch every single episode. But
Yes, absolutely.
I think I only gave 1 5
Could
this
be.
year, and that was The Shape of Water. It's a beautiful film. It's dark. It's uplifting. It's powerfully deep. Beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Sally Hawkins is fantastic in this.
As putting on a performance where she doesn't say a word.
Yeah.
And emotes so much emotion.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Yeah. And that's why it is also my number 1 movie of the year.
Nice.
It is, yeah, it is great.
We haven't done this.
No. I know we haven't. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think anything was going to top 3 billboards because it came on late in the year. I'm like, this is a great movie. I love this movie. I give it 5 stars. What could top it? And then Shape of Water just blew me away. And the way that Guillermo del Toro, I think it's his most beautiful film. And the way he has 2 characters who don't speak and yet emote so much to you. Michael Shannon's great in this movie. And the way it mixes genres, where like moments it's a silent film, some moments it's a musical. It's a beautiful love story and a sci-fi film. And, it's just all these mixes of genres. You can't pigeonhole what it is.
Yeah.
It's just a great movie.
There's scenes in there that I will just never forget. It's that powerful. I want to see it again.
Yeah.
Marcus Theaters is re-releasing it again this weekend.
Right, we have the big Oscar showcase.
No, well, they have the showcase that's coming up, but they also released Shape of Water again just for this weekend. I'm hoping they'll extend it throughout the week because if that's possible, I would like to see it again.
Go see your favorite host, Mike Roth, at the theater. I mean, rarely do we. I don't think we've ever matched as our favorite movies. It's the best movie of the year.
It really is.
Yeah, go see it.
Yeah, see it this weekend, and then maybe Marcus will make so much money they will keep
it
showing
going. Because there's not much coming out in theaters. That segues me right to what is coming soon.
All right.
We have one movie which will be in theaters in the following week, and that is Winchester, the movie based on the true story of America's most haunted house, starring Helen Mirren as Lady Winchester.
They always claim that, don't they?
I don't know, but the Winchester story is really interesting to me. Yeah. And this movie looks interesting.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this movie.
I'm hopeful for it. I'm hopeful. They have a really good actress in there, of course, with Helen Mirren. Before we leave you, though, Mike had just mentioned the Palace here with Marcus Theaters, and I want to thank them for sponsoring this show. Thank you for sponsoring Real Reviews. The Palace here in Sun Prairie is the greatest Cineplex that you will watch movies in here in our fair town.
And they have deals out there. If you haven't gotten your popcorn bucket, that's good for the whole year. Grab one of those things. You get discount popcorn for the entire year if you bring in the bucket.
Popcorn.
And also, like you mentioned earlier, we have the nomination thing, which I believe comes with dinner and unlimited popcorn.
Yeah, you get to watch all 9 movies that were nominated for Best Picture.
Yep,
that's
split up in 2 days.
Those are pretty good movies.
And they have a package deal, I think, for $60, which really isn't that bad. You get all this extra stuff, including a lanyard.
Ooh.
And
Mike loves lanyards.
And you get to see these beautiful movies that 2017 gave us. It's a fantastic deal. I would suggest going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm kind of melancholy because we're done talking about. I really believe that 2017 was a really solid year for movies. Even my worst movies, it's a short list this year as compared to previous years where there's a deep list of movies I hated.
I would say for 2017, I think what stands out most is probably feminist movies. There was a lot of feminist movies that were done really well where it could hit the mainstream, but. As far as worst, animation really hit a low blow.
Yeah.
Just
we'll see what this year brings.
Yeah.
Of course, the Oscars are coming up in a few weeks. We just had the nominations, so in a couple weeks we're going to be doing our episode where we're talking about the movies that the awards, who we predict will win, and who we would give the awards to ourselves. That's always a fun episode.
Deadpool won for me last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Deadpool swept the awards last year, as they always should. We got a new Deadpool movie coming out this year. Who knows if they'll win awards for next year?
I don't know.
We'll see. Before we leave you, of course, if you want to find more from us, you can find us online anytime by going to Facebook.com/RealReviewsTV or on Twitter @RealReviewsTV. If you go to sunprairiemediacenter.com, you can find 195 previous episodes hanging out up there. Yeah, absolutely. So we appreciate all your support, and go on there, find us, chat with us. Next week, we're going to be talking about the new Maze Runner movie. It's finally here. And we also have Hostels, the new Christian Bale movie is coming out. Those are the 2 flicks we'll have. And an amazing throwback. We haven't done a throwback in a while. We're going to do it next week.
All right.
Just wait till you see. But until that time, I'm Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.